There comes a moment in every life when you feel the urge to rise up, to defend your name, to prove your worth, to fight every misunderstanding and silence every accusation that comes against you. The world teaches you to stand your ground, to argue louder, to protect your image at all costs. But there is a deeper truth, a higher calling that whispers to the soul, telling you that not every battle is yours to fight, and not every voice deserves your answer. True strength is not always found in resistance, and real power is not always revealed in retaliation. Sometimes the greatest victory is discovered in surrender, in choosing to trust when everything inside you is demanding that you react. It is in those quiet moments when you step back and release the need to defend yourself that something far greater begins to move on your behalf. When you place your trust in God, you are not giving up. You are stepping into a power that is beyond human understanding. You are declaring that your life is not in the hands of opinions, accusations, or temporary circumstances. You are choosing faith over fear, peace over pressure, and divine purpose over personal pride. And in that choice, you begin to experience a calm that cannot be shaken, a confidence that does not need validation, and a strength that does not come from striving but from believing. Because when you trust God instead of defending yourself, you are allowing Him to write your story in ways you never could. You are making room for justice that is greater than your arguments, for truth that speaks louder than your words, and for a victory that no human effort could ever achieve. There is a weight you have been carrying that was never designed for your shoulders, a pressure that crept into your life the moment you believed you had to answer every attack, correct every lie, and defend every part of who you are, as if your worth depended on it. You've been stepping into battles that drain your energy, steal your peace, and cloud your purpose, thinking that if you just fight a little harder, explain a little better, push a little more, everything will finally fall into place. But deep down there is a quiet truth calling you to step back, to release that grip, to understand that not every fight belongs to you. See, when you try to carry every burden, you slowly lose sight of the life you were meant to live. Your focus shifts from purpose to proving, from growth to guarding, from becoming to constantly reacting. And that is a heavy place to live in. It will wear you down piece by piece until you forget what it feels like to move with clarity and confidence. But the moment you decide to let go of what was never yours, something powerful begins to happen. You start to breathe again. You start to see again. You start to walk differently, not because the world changed, but because you did. Letting God fight your battles is not weakness, it is discipline. It takes strength to be still when everything inside you is telling you to react. It takes courage to hold your peace when your name is being tested. It takes faith to trust that truth does not need your defense when it is backed by something greater than human opinion. And when you step into that kind of trust, you begin to operate from a place that cannot be shaken by noise, by pressure, or by people who misunderstand you. You don't have to chase validation when your value is already established. You don't have to argue your worth when it was given to you long before anyone had an opinion about it. What you need is the awareness to recognize which battles are distractions and which paths are assignments. Because every time you waste your energy fighting something small, you are pulling yourself away from something meaningful. Every time you try to fix what people think about you, you delay what you were created to become. There is power in restraint. There is power in walking away from arguments that lead nowhere. There is power in silence when the world expects noise, because silence is not empty when it is filled with trust. It is a statement. It says that you know who you are, and you are not moved by temporary storms. It says that you understand that some things are handled better by patience than by pressure. And it says that you are connected to a strength that does not require constant proof. When you allow God to step in, things begin to unfold in ways you could never force on your own. Doors open without struggle. Truth rises without your defense. Situations sift without your interference. And you start to see that what felt like a battle was actually a setup for something greater. Because what is meant for you does not need to be fought for in desperation. It will find you, align with you, and stand with you when the time is right. But you have to let go first. You have to release that need to control every outcome and manage every perception. You have to trust that even when things look uncertain, there is a plan unfolding behind the scenes that does not require your constant involvement, and that trust is built in. Moments when you choose peace over pride, when you choose faith over fear, when you choose to stand still instead of stepping into chaos. You are not called to win every argument. You are called to live a life that speaks louder than any defense you could ever make. Your consistency, your character, your growth, your resilience, those are the things that will tell your story better than words ever could. And when you focus on that, when you invest your energy into becoming, instead of battling, you start to rise above the noise that once pulled you down. There will always be voices. There will always be moments where you feel misunderstood. There will always be situations that tempt you to step out of your peace and into reaction. But you have a choice in those moments. You can either carry the burden and fight the fight, or you can release it and trust that it is being handled in a way you cannot yet see. And that choice will shape not only your peace, but your future. Because the truth is, you were never meant to carry everything. You were never meant to fight every battle. You were meant to walk with purpose, to move with clarity, to live with a sense of direction that is not controlled by chaos. And that only happens when you understand that letting go is not losing. It is positioning yourself for something greater. So step back from the noise. Step away from the need to prove. Let go of the weight that has been slowing you down, and trust that what is real will stand, what is true will rise, and what is meant for you will come without you having to fight for it in ways that cost you your peace. Because in that surrender, you are not falling behind. You are finally moving in alignment with a strength that has been waiting for you to trust it all along. There is a voice inside you that always wants to be heard first, the one that pushes you to react, to defend, to rove, to make sure nobody misunderstands who you are. That voice is loud, impatient, and always ready for a fight. It tells you that if you stay quiet, you lose. That if you don't respond, you are weak. That if you don't stand up for yourself in every moment, you will be overlooked or taken for granted. But there is another voice, quieter, deeper, steady, and unshaken. And that voice is not driven by fear or pride. That voice is rooted in faith. The challenge in life is not the noise around you, it is the noise within you. Because your ego does not need an audience to speak. It rises on its own, fueled by insecurity, by past wounds, by the need to control how people see you. And if you let it lead, it will pull you into battles that have no reward, into arguments that have no end, into stress that has no purpose. It will keep you running in circles, trying to protect an image instead of building a life. Silencing your ego is not about becoming passive or allowing yourself to be disrespected. It is about knowing the difference between reacting out of pride and responding with purpose. It is about recognizing that not every situation deserves your energy, and not every opinion requires your attention. When you silence your ego, you create space for clarity. You give yourself the ability to pause, to think, to choose your actions, instead of being controlled by your emotions. And in that space, something powerful begins to grow. Your faith starts to take the lead. Faith does not rush. Faith does not panic. Faith does not need to shout to be heard. It stands firm, even when everything around you feels uncertain. It trusts that what is meant to be revealed will be revealed, that what is meant to be corrected will be corrected, and that what is meant to stand will stand without your constant interference. When your ego is loud, your faith becomes quiet. But when your ego is quiet, your faith becomes strong. You begin to see things differently. Situations that once triggered you no longer have the same power. Words that once affected you begin to lose their weight. You stop taking everything personally because you understand that not everything is about you. And that understanding brings freedom. Think about how much energy is wasted, trying to win every moment, trying to prove every point, trying to control every outcome. That energy could be used to build something meaningful, to grow into the person you are meant to become, to focus on your purpose instead of distractions. But as long as your ego is in control, your energy will always be scattered, pulled in different directions by things that do not truly matter. Strengthening your faith requires discipline. It requires you to trust even when you don't understand. It requires you to hold your peace when your emotions are pushing you to react. It requires you to believe that there is a bigger picture unfolding, even when you can only see a small part of it. And that kind of trust is not built overnight. It is built in moments when you choose to let go instead of holding on, when you choose silence instead of noise, when you choose patience instead of pressure. There is a certain power that comes from not needing to respond to everything, a confidence that does not rely on validation, a strength that does not need to be proven. When you reach that place, you move differently. You are no longer easily shaken. You are no longer controlled by what people say or think. You become grounded, focused, and aligned with something greater than temporary emotions. Your ego will always try to convince you that you need to act now, that you need to say something, that you need to defend yourself immediately. But faith will remind you to wait, to trust, to stay still and allow things to unfold. And in that stillness, you begin to see that many of the things you once thought required your reaction resolve themselves without your involvement. You start to realize that silence is not empty. It is full of strength. It is a sign that you are in control of yourself. It is a reflection of your growth. Because anyone can react, anyone can argue, anyone can defend. But not everyone can stay grounded when tested. Not everyone can remain calm when challenged. Not everyone can trust when things feel uncertain. And that is where your power lies. Not in how loud you can be, but in how steady you can remain. Not in how quickly you react, but in how wisely you respond. Not in how much you prove, but in how deeply you believe. As you continue to silence your ego, you will notice a shift in your life. Your relationships will improve because you are no longer driven by the need to win, but by the desire to understand. Your mind will become clearer because you are no longer filled with unnecessary noise. Your path will become more focused because you are no longer distracted by things that do not align with your purpose. And most importantly, your connection with God will grow stronger. Because when your ego steps back, your faith steps forward. When your pride decreases, your trust increases. And when your need for control fades, your ability to surrender becomes stronger. This is not about losing yourself. It is about finding your true strength. A strength that is not based on reaction, but on trust. A strength that is not shaken by opinions, but grounded in belief. A strength that allows you to walk through life with peace. A strength that allows you to walk through life with peace, knowing that you do not have to carry everything, prove everything, or fight everything to become everything you were created to be. Because real power is not in the noise you make. It is in the peace you keep and the faith you hold when everything on you tries to pull you in the opposite direction. There is a quiet struggle that lives inside many people, a constant pull between trusting the path ahead and trying to control every step along the way. It shows up in the need to prove something, to make sure people see your value, to ensure that your efforts are recognized and your intentions are understood. You start to feel like if you don't manage every detail, if you don't explain yourself at every turn, if you don't push harder than everyone else, then somehow you will be overlooked, underestimated, or left behind. And without realizing it, you begin to carry a burden that was never meant for you. Control has a way of disguising itself as responsibility. It convinces you that you are being strong, that you are taking charge, that you are doing what needs to be done. But beneath that surface, there is often fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of losing opportunities. Fear of not being enough unless you constantly prove that you are. And that fear can quietly take over your decisions, your reactions, and your peace. When you live in that space, everything becomes a performance. Every conversation feels like a test. Every situation becomes something you have to win. You measure your worth by how well you defend yourself, how clearly you explain your intentions, how much validation you can gather from the outside world. But no matter how much you prove, it never feels like enough. Because the need to prove is not rooted in truth, it is rooted in doubt. Trust is different. Trust does not need to perform. Trust does not rush to explain. Trust stands firm even when there is silence. It allows you to move through life with a sense of calm, knowing that what is meant for you does not require constant justification. It frees you from the exhausting cycle of trying to control outcomes and manage perceptions. And T reminds you that your value is not something that needs to be proven over and over again. Releasing the need to prove yourself is not easy, because it goes against everything the world teaches. You are told to compete, to stand out, to make sure your voice is heard above all others. You are taught that if you don't speak up, you will be ignored, that if you don't defend yourself, you will be seen as weak. But there is a deeper strength that comes from knowing when to step back, when to let go, and when to trust that your life is being guided by something greater than your own efforts. When you choose trust over control, you begin to see that not every situation requires your intervention. Some things are better left to unfold on their own. Some misunderstandings do not need to be corrected immediately. Some opinions do not need to be changed. And when you stop trying to fix everything, you create space for clarity, for growth, and for peace. There is a freedom that comes with letting go of the need to prove. You stop chasing approval. You stop seeking validation in places where it was never meant to be found. You stop measuring your worth by external reactions, and instead you begin to build a quiet confidence, one that is not shaken by what people think or say, one that is rooted in something deeper and more lasting. That kind of confidence does not need to announce itself. It does not need to argue. It does not need to convince anyone of anything. It simply exists, steady and unshaken. And when you operate from that place, you move differently. You speak with intention, not impulse. You act with purpose, not pressure. You make decisions based on alignment, not fear. But to get there, you have to let go of the illusion that you are in control of everything. You have to accept that there are forces at work beyond what you can see, that there is a plan unfolding, even when it doesn't make sense, that there is a timing that cannot be rushed, and that requires faith, real faith, the kind that holds on even when things feel uncertain, the kind that stays steady even when results are not immediate. There will be moments when you feel the urge to step in, to correct, to prove, to take control. Moments when silence feels uncomfortable, when waiting feels like weakness, when trusting feels like a risk. But those are the moments that define your growth, because every time you choose trust in those situations, you are strengthening something inside you that cannot be shaken by circumstances. You begin to understand that what is meant for you will not pass you by, that what is true will reveal itself in time, that what matters will stand without you forcing it to stand. And that realization changes everything. It shifts your focus from trying to control outcomes to becoming the person you are meant to be. It allows you to invest your energy in growth instead of defense, in purpose instead of pressure. You start to see that proving yourself is a never-ending cycle, but trusting yourself and trusting God brings a sense of completion, a sense of peace, a sense of knowing that you are enough without having to constantly demonstrate it. And from that place, you are able to move forward with clarity, with strength, with a calm assurance that does not depend on external validation. This is where your power truly lies, not in how much you can control, but in how much you can trust. Not in how loudly you can prove your worth, but in how quietly you can stand in it. Not in how tightly you can hold on, but in how confidently you can let go. And as you continue to release that need to prove, you will find that life becomes less of a struggle and more of a journey. A journey where you are not constantly fighting for recognition, but walking, in purpose. A journey where you are not trying to control every outcome, but trusting that each step is leading you exactly where you need to be. A journey where your strength is not defined by how much you do, but by how deeply you believe, and how fully you trust even when you cannot see the full picture. Yet you keep moving forward with a steady heart, knowing that what is truly yours will never require you to lose your peace, just to hold on to it. There are moments in life when everything in you wants to step forward, to take control, to fix what feels broken and defend what feels threatened. Moments when your instincts tell you that if you do not act now, you will lose something important. Your position, your respect, your chance to be understood. And in those moments, stepping back feels unnatural, almost impossible, because it goes against the part of you that has been trained to react, to protect, to prove. But there is a deeper strength waiting to be discovered, a strength that reveals itself only when you have the courage to pause and trust instead of rushing in. Stepping back is not about giving up, it is about making room. It is about recognizing that your constant involvement can sometimes block what is meant to happen for you. When you are always pushing, always forcing, always trying to control the outcome, you limit what can unfold beyond your understanding. You operate within your own boundaries, your own timing, your own vision. But when you step back, you open the door to something greater, something that moves beyond your limitations and works in ways you could never orchestrate on your own. There is a kind of power that does not need your effort to be effective, a kind of justice that does not rely on your defense to be revealed, a kind of truth that does not need your voice to be heard. And when you begin to trust in that, you start to see that not every situation requires your reaction. Some things are handled better in your absence than in your presence. Some outcomes are stronger when they are not shaped by your interference. Think about how many times you have stepped into something too quickly, driven by emotion, only to realize later that your reaction made things heavier than they needed to be. That is what happens when you move before clarity, when you act before understanding, when you try to control what was never yours to control. But when you step back, you give yourself space to see clearly, to think deeply, to move wisely instead of impulsively. And in that space, something begins to shift. You start to notice that things are being handled without your constant effort. Situations begin to resolve in ways you did not expect. Doors open that you did not knock on. Truth comes to light without you having to fight for it. And you realize that what felt like a loss of control was actually the beginning of a greater order taking place. This is where faith becomes real. Not in the moments when everything is going your way, but in the moments when you choose to step back even when you feel justified to step forward. When you decide to hold your peace even when you have something to say. When you trust that there is a power at work that sees what you cannot see and knows what you do not know. It takes strength to do that. Real strength, because anyone can react. Anyone can argue. Anyone can try to force their way through a situation, but not everyone can stand still with confidence. Not everyone can walk away with peace. Not everyone can trust that stepping back does not mean falling behind. When you begin to live this way, your perspective changes. You stop seeing every challenge as something you have to conquer with effort, and you start seeing it as something that can be overcome with trust. You stop feeling the need to control every outcome, and you start allowing life to unfold in its own timing. And that shift brings a level of peace that cannot be achieved through constant action. There is also a quiet confidence that grows within you. A confidence that is not based on what you can do, but on what you believe is being done for you. You no longer feel the pressure to prove yourself in every situation, because you understand that your value is not determined by how much you fight, but by how firmly you stand in your faith. And as you continue to step back, you begin to see patterns. You begin to notice that the situations you once thought required your intervention often turn out better when you let them go. That the people who misunderstood you either come to clarity or fade away without your involvement. That the opportunities meant for you find their way to you without you having to chase them in desperation. This does not mean that you never take action. It means that your actions are guided, not forced. It means that you move with intention, not impulse. It means that you know when to step forward and when to step back, and that awareness becomes one of your greatest strengths. Because stepping back is not about doing nothing. It is about doing the right thing at the right time. It is about trusting that there is a bigger picture unfolding, one that does not require your constant interference. It is about allowing space for something greater to work in your life. Something that operates beyond your understanding but always aligns with your purpose. There will be times when stepping back feels uncomfortable, when it feels like you are letting something slip away, when it feels like you are losing your chance to control the outcome. But those are the moments that test your faith, the moments that shape your growth, the moments that teach you the real pull. Where is not in controlling everything, but in trusting enough to let go. And as you continue to walk this path, you will find that life becomes less about struggle and more about alignment. Less about forcing and more about flowing. Less about proving and more about becoming. You will find a rhythm that is not driven by pressure, but by peace. a direction that is not shaped by fear, but by faith. Because when you step back, you are not stepping away from your life. You are stepping into a deeper level of trust. You are allowing a greater power to take the lead, to handle what you cannot handle, to see what you cannot see, to move in ways you could never move on your own. And in that space, you will discover that the battles you once thought required your strength are being won by a power far greater than anything you could ever bring to the table. As long as you have the courage to step back and trust that what is working behind the scenes is far more powerful than anything you could do in the moment. There is a kind of exhaustion that does not come from physical work, but from constantly feeling like you have to defend who you are, explain your intentions, protect your image, and correct every misunderstanding that comes your way. It is a quiet drain on your spirit, a weight that builds over time as you keep stepping into battles that never seem to end. You find yourself thinking about what people said, what they meant, how you should respond, how you could have said it better, how you can make them see the truth. And before you know it, your peace is gone, replaced by tension, frustration, and the endless need to prove something that should never have needed proof in the first place. The truth is, as long as you are living to defend yourself, you will never fully experience peace. Because defense is rooted in reaction, and reaction keeps you tied to the opinions, actions, and expectations of others. It puts your focus on the outside, on things you cannot control, on people who may never understand you the way you want them to. And that kind of focus will always leave you restless, always searching, always trying to fix something that is not yours to fix. But there is another way to live, a way that is not driven by the need to defend, but by the decision to believe that your worth is not determined by what others think, to believe that your truth does not need constant explanation, to believe that what is real will stand on its own without you having to hold it up for everyone to see. And when you begin to live from that place, something shifts within you. Believing is not passive. It is powerful. It requires you to stand firm in what you know, even when it is challenged. It requires you to hold on to your faith, even when circumstances try to shake it. It requires you to trust that there is something greater working in your life, even when you cannot see immediate results. And that kind of belief creates a foundation that cannot be easily moved. When you stop defending and start believing, you begin to reclaim your energy. The energy you once used to argue, to explain, to prove, now becomes available for something greater. You can invest it in your growth, in your purpose, in building the life you were meant to live. You are no longer distracted by every voice that questions you, because you are anchored in something deeper than their opinions. There is a calm that comes with that shift, a steady, unshaken peace that does not depend on everything going your way. It is the kind of peace that remains even when people misunderstand you, even when situations do not unfold as you expected, even when challenges arise. Because your peace is no longer tied to external validation. It is rooted in internal belief. You begin to realize that not everyone needs to understand you. Not everyone will see your heart, your intentions, your efforts, and that is okay. Because your journey is not about convincing everyone else. It is about staying true to what you know is right. It is about walking your path with integrity, with faith, with a quiet confidence that does not need to be announced. There is also a freedom that comes with letting go of the need to defend. You are no longer carrying the pressure of managing how you are perceived. You are no longer trapped in the cycle of reacting to every situation. You are no longer giving your power away to people and circumstances that do not deserve it. Instead, you are standing in your truth, allowing your life to speak for itself. And when you live like that, something powerful begins to happen. The things that once disturbed you lose their impact. The words that once triggered you no longer have the same effect. The situations that once pulled you into conflict no longer have the same hold on you. Because you have shifted your focus from what is being said about you to what is being built within you. Belief also strengthens your connection with God, because when you stop trying to control every situation, you create space for trust. You allow yourself to rely on something greater than your own understanding. You begin to see that not every problem needs your solution. Not every challenge requires your effort. Not every battle is yours to fight, and that realization brings a level of peace that cannot be found in constant action. There will still be moments when you feel the urge to defend yourself, moments when silence feels difficult, when letting go feels uncomfortable, when trusting feels uncertain. But those are the moments that shape your growth. Those are the moments that test your faith. And every time you choose to believe instead of defend, you are strengthening something within you that cannot be shaken. You are building a resilience that is not based on reaction, but on trust, a confidence that is not dependent on approval, but on belief, a peace that is not temporary, but lasting. And that is where your true power lies. Because at the end of the day, defending yourself may win you an argument, but believing will win you your peace. Defending may give you a moment of satisfaction, but believing will give you a lifetime of clarity. Defending keeps you in the noise, but believing lifts you above it. So let them talk. Let them misunderstand. Let them have their opinions. And you stay grounded. You stay focused. You stay committed to your path. Because you know something they do not know. You know that your life is not defined by their words, but by your faith. You know that your worth is not something that needs to be proven, but something that already exists. And as you continue to walk in that belief, you will find that peace is no longer something you are searching for. It becomes something you carry with you every single day, in every situation, no matter what comes your way, because you have made the decision to stop fighting for validation and start standing in faith, trusting that what is meant for you will never require you to lose yourself, just to hold on to it. And that kind of peace is something no one can take from you once you truly embrace it. And as you walk forward from this moment, understand this clearly. You don't have to fight every battle to win your life. You don't have to answer every voice to prove your worth. And you don't have to carry the weight of being misunderstood just to feel seen. There is a greater strength available to you, one that rises when you choose faith over fear, when you choose peace over pressure, when you choose trust over control. Let people say what they will say. Let situations unfold the way they unfold. You stay grounded in who you are and who you are becoming. Because when you stop defending and start believing, you step into a different kind of power. A power that is calm, steady, and unshaken. Keep moving with purpose. Keep trusting, even when it feels uncertain. Keep holding your peace when the world expects your reaction. Because what is real will stand. What is true will rise, and what is meant for you will find its way without you losing yourself in the process. And in that space, you will discover something greater than victory. You will discover peace that stays, strength that lasts, and a faith that carries you through every season of your life.